All right, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. I want to give double honors to my apostles and elders, great millstone, who teach very well. Where I learned this truth from is citation out there to the hopeful elect, who continue to push this word in all truth, faith, and sincerity. And also shalom to all the men, women, and children who sincerely believe upon the words of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. And on today, man, just basically getting on being an African American is a Gentile. Now, if you consider yourself an African American, then you're in a Gentile state of mind, not by blood, because it's two different things. Because instead of you calling on your true banner or going into your true culture, the culture of turbans, garments down to the foot, Jake eating lamb instead of pork, you know what I'm saying? Instead of you cleaving into the culture of the East, you cleaved into the new culture that Esau created for you, man. Let's go ahead and get this real quick. This is the book of Jeremiah 17, and I'm going to start at verse 4. It says, "And thou even thyself shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee." And that's what the Lord have did. That's a part of the curses being upon us. The Lord have basically cut Israel off, man. It was a point in the times of slavery, he turned his back on us, man. But now we're in the time to return. But Jake don't want to return unto the Lord. Let's get some real quick, and we're going to jump back into that 17. Let's go to 6 real quick. This is the book of Jeremiah 6. Jumping down to verse 16. It says, "Thus saith the Lord, stand ye in the ways and see. And as for the old paths," because once you look at the old paths that our people was once living in, they prospered. When you don't listen to the so-called white man, you prosper in your society, man. Then here comes the devil trying to mess shit up. Let's read this again. It says, "Thus saith the Lord, stand ye in the ways and see. And as for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, returning unto your heritage." And instead of you calling yourself an African American, you calling yourself a Judite, man. Instead of you calling yourself a Haitian, you calling yourself a Levite. Jamaican, you're a Benjamite, Instead of you being a Mexican, you're Issachar now. Puerto Rican, you're an Ephraimite now, man. And this is the way that the Lord is making us return. Yeah, it's not sexy in the eyes of the world, but in the eyes of the spirit, it's a beautiful and heavy motion that's going on, man. So let's read this again. It says, "Where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls." So this is that rest that Yahweh Shai was talking about. When you go into that St. John, the 8th chapter, ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free from the bondage and the chains that Esau had upon your mind. Because it was a point that, Jake was hard-bodied with that Pan-African BS, man. Until the Lord woke us up out of it. It was a season around 2016, like close to 2020, motherfuckers was wearing dashikis and things like that. It got blown over, man. Because it's nothing but a gimmick and a false culture that Esau set up for our people, man. Which once we return into our true culture, which that what we're doing now, is going to be forever, man. See, black culture is based on trends. African American culture is based on the latest music, the latest dance, the latest fashion. But our true culture, the culture of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, is based on the Lord, man. The laws, statutes, and commandments of the Bible. But when you go into that word law, it actually goes back into prophecy too. But let's go ahead and continue on. It says, "But they said," which is the 2/3, "we will not walk therein." So 2/3 of our people basically saying that they will not walk in the ways of the Lord. Why? Because they love the ways of African American culture more than they love the ways of the Lord. And the reason why, because Jake was brought up with it. Only thing Jake know is the projects and 2nd Street, 42nd Street North or whatever. Niggas don't know past the hood. And if you can't get your mind at the hood, how can you look towards the east? How can your mind return back into the east? So let's go back into this, Jeremiah 17:4. And thou even thyself shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. We even discontinued, man. We was once an African American until the Lord brought us out of their state and we found our true identity, man. You know, you have to realize, man, the so-called black Latinos and Native Americans have been having identity crisis ever since they've been here in America. You know, the blacks, y'all was Negroes, y'all was Afro-Americans, y'all was blacks, and now y'all African-Americans. You know? That's a damn identity crisis. Even when you going to GAD, y'all was the red men, y'all was the natives, now y'all the native Indians. You know what I'm saying? Even you going to Issachar, the northern tribe, they try to be fancy. They Latino American. They was born here in America, man. Not knowing that that's not your true culture, man. That's the Lord showing you Jeremiah 17:4, Salakia, that you discontinue of who you truly was. Continuing on, though. It says, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. And that's why America pushed forth black culture, so you can continue to be under that state of delusion. Continuing on. For ye have kindled a fire in my anger, which shall burn forever. And basically that forever is just a very long time. But again, the reason why we discontinue from our power is because we sinned against the Lord. Micah 7:10. I will bear the indignation of the Lord because I sinned against him. And us as a whole, we sinned against Yahweh Shem Yahushua. And that's why we forgot who he was. But now it's the season to return. You know, it's written in the book of Amos or Hosea, I forgot. But just paraphrasing, the Lord have smitten and he healed, man. Yes, he smitten us. We was lost in the sauce. We didn't know where to go. We didn't have no sense of direction until the truth came, man. Until this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding came into our life. Let's go ahead and get some real quick. This is the book of 1 Peter, because the reason why we know about quote unquote black culture, because we lived through it, man. You know, we talk through experience. Again, black culture is just based off trends. When our culture is based off the laws, statutes, and commandments. It's based off Yahushua. It's based off life, man. And all those really the same thing, you know. Let's go ahead and get something real quick, though. Let's go right here to the book of 1 Peter. My bad. 1 Peter 4, and I'm going to start at verse, let's start at verse 3. This is the book of 1 Peter 4, and let's start at verse 1. Salakim. It says, for as much then as a Mashiach has suffered for us in the flesh, arm yourselves likewise with the same mind. For he that has suffered in the flesh have ceased from sin. And you know, for lack of better words, that's why it's an honor to catch hell. Let's continue on. That he should no longer should live in the rest of his time in the flesh to the lust of men, but to the will of the Most High. And again, black culture plays upon the flesh. You know, not to get too graphic, but going to porn categories, the biggest category is Jake, man. And right there, that just should show you when Esau think of you. Let's continue on, though. It says, for the time past of our life may suffice us to have wrought the will of the Gentiles when we walked in lasciviousness, lust, excess of wine, banqueting, and abominable idolatries. And we all did that. We was partying and bullshitting. You know, you drinking, looking, you popping everything. You know, you popping people, you know, men's wives and things like that. Jake was once in that lifestyle. But it says what? That was in our past life. Continuing on, verse 4, though, the point wherein they think it's strange. So once you don't call yourself an African American, or you don't have that banner of that you love Esau, people think you strange. Am I therefore becoming your enemy because I tell you the truth? But it's another one. The Lord, let me get it real quick. I know it's in Isaiah. Yeah, I could quote it. He that departed from evil make himself a prey. So that's why you don't see a lot of quote unquote black people, even a lot of quote unquote Latino people, even a lot of quote unquote Native Americans claim that banner of an Israelite because it's strange unto them. Let's continue on though. It says, wherein they think it strange that ye run not with them to the same excess of riding, speaking evil of you. And they talk shit about you. Man, this man say he ain't no African American no more. So what you, and niggas try to be deep. So what you put on your, that's why you don't even discuss shit with niggas. What you put on your job application? When you file your taxes, what you put? You know? Not knowing that's just the way for Esau to easily identify his slaves, man. How many black slaves he got, how many white slaves he got, how many native, so on and so forth, man. And a lot of them niggas who, in that mindset, ultimately they gonna take that chip, man, that C hip, Let's go ahead and continue on though. Verse 6. For this cause was the gospel preached also to them that are dead, that they might be judged according to men in the flesh, but live according to the Most High in the spirit. Let's read this one more time. For this cause was this gospel preached also to them that are dead. And what does it mean that we was dead? We didn't know who we was. We was unconscious into who our power was, man. Continuing on. That they might be judged according to men in the flesh, but live according to the Most High in the spirit. Let's go ahead and get something real quick, because we are dead unto the world, but we was once dead too, man. We was once dead in the flesh towards the eyes of the Lord when we didn't have this truth. But how did the Lord bring us back to life? Let's go right here to Genesis 2. This is the book of Genesis 2. And let's start at verse 7. It says, and the Lord Yahweh Hashem Yahushua formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, which is this knowledge, and man became a living soul. So soon as you return into your true power, Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, the powers of heavens and earth, for the lack of better words, soon as you start doing that, that's your return of coming back to life. That's that spiritual CPR giving you breath and making you shine in front of the Lord, man. Not shine in front of the Lord, but make the Lord's face shine upon you. The anointing prayer, Let's get something real quick, because ultimately all Israel is going to return into the Lord, man. But let's get this real quick. This is the book of, This is the book of Isaiah 14:1. It says, for the Lord Yahweh Hashem Yahushua will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel. The elect, man. Continuing on, and set them in their own land, and strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. Now, right there, there's strangers being joined with you. That's Gentiles, the white man, Japheth, and, niggas try the Samoans. Niggas gonna try to throw everybody in there. No, those strangers are people who don't know their power. Even when you don't see nobody in a long time, a chick or, what I'm saying? You deal with it in a minute and she hit you up with the first thing she say, hello, stranger. You familiar with her. You been inside her and everything. But that stranger is just to identify, you been acting funny. You act like you don't know me no more. And that's why the Lord called us strangers, man. Because instead of us calling upon his true name, we was calling upon Jesus. Like it says in those 1 Peter, the 4th chapter, the idolatries, niggas call on Mother Mary. You know what I'm saying? Niggas call on Allah, but they don't call upon that true power, Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. Let's go ahead and continue on though. It says, and strangers shall be joined unto them, and they shall cleave unto the house of Jacob. So they're going to cleave back into their heritage, man. They're going to go back into the origins of their forefathers, instead of loving the ways of the Greeks. So, I just pray this video was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Rakak Wadash. I want to give that honor to my apostle, elders, great millstone, and Shalom.